Hello, scholars. Mrs. Olson here. This is the second lesson in our mini unit for CER, which stands for Claim, Evidence, and Reasoning. A little refresher, this is a system for organizing our thoughts, crafting an opinion, and using evidence to support our ideas. Lesson 2 is going to be all about the evidence. So let's get started. To begin with, we need to understand what evidence is. So here we go. It's all about the facts, people. Here's what I mean. Evidence is factual information that proves a claim. So we're going to talk about a list that can be considered evidence in our social studies classes. One example is historical data. I want you to think numbers. So in history, in social studies, we want to think about dates, numbers, times. How about details in a painting or a photograph? Maybe there's a certain detail that appears in many different photographs or many different times in one photograph. Those can all be considered historical data. Our second example, observational data. You can see it with your own eyes or someone else can. Maybe, let's take for example, people who have been imprisoned throughout history. Maybe that imprisoned person heard their captors talking through a wall and they lived to write about that experience and verbally tell about that experience. Using that document can be considered observational data. Let's look at the third one, primary evidence. I like to describe a primary document as one that was created in the time period about that time period. For example, MLK's I Have a Dream speech is a primary document because he wrote the speech and gave that same speech in 1963 about equal rights. Many works have been written about this very speech, but they came later and are written by different people. These works can be considered secondary documents or evidence. We can still trust them to be reliable and valid, but they were not written in the time period about that time period. They were written later and are considered secondary evidence. So here are a few more very specific examples and then graphics to match those examples. Speeches, graphics, pictures, newspaper articles, scholarly writings, textbooks, music, lyrics, art. Here's a few graphics. This is MLK's I Have a Dream speech, primary document. Here is a letter written by the famous nurse Florence Nightingale. We can actually see her handwriting, who she wrote it to, in what year she wrote it, and her signature. This is a photograph, but we can see this. People can actually go there and look at these. They can look at the very fine detail. This is the terracotta army of ancient China. So there's a lot of information that we can gain from just looking at these sculptures that we have in our possession, in our human possession. All right, now that we have talked about what can be considered evidence, let's practice with our original prompt, which was, what is the world's best breakfast cereal? April's claim was, O's is my top cereal choice. Do you remember? Okay, so let's look to see how she wrote evidence, the evidence portion. It doesn't cut the top of my mouth like Captain Crunch, and it doesn't get soggy in the bowl like Lucky Charms. Okay, here's the evidence. These curves' degree of jaggedness, expressed by their apparent fractal dimension, can serve as an instrumental measure of the particle's crunchiness. She found this evidence in a scholarly article from the Journal of Food Science, which was published in 2020. Here's how she connects the evidence to her claim. Science has shown that round circle cereals do not get as soggy as other shaped cereals. For these reasons, O's is my favorite breakfast cereal. All right, now we want you to practice finding evidence for the type of cereal that you believe to be the best cereal. Let us know if you need help. Bye.